Dr. Scribner and Mr. Ramos and the board, thank you for this opportunity to present an Avid report. You've heard a lot about Avid already tonight, and thank you for listening and for your attentiveness and forbearance during that time. Am I going into the mic? Okay. I don't think I was close enough to it. I think that was my fault. Okay, but anyway, you've heard a lot about Avid already tonight, and I thank you for your courtesy and listening to the people and their heart. We do have a budget for Avid, and they get it every year. So thank you for the very first thing on our report. Can somebody help me pull up what was here? I can't seem to find it. But basically tonight what we're going to talk to you about is Avid and the power of belief to change lives and futures for the better. And in 2009, Berkner High School in Richardson did a video of their Avid seniors called Cardboard Confessionals, where they basically told parts of their Avid story. And they told what their lives had been like before Avid, and then the difference that Avid had made for them in their high school careers. And then tonight we have the next chapter of that story, the next chapter of that story, which is what is going on with them right now. So that's the first thing that we're going to do, and they're controlling it from back there, I think. Well, that's a little bit of a story about the difference that Avid made for these young people. And you heard earlier tonight about the difference that it's making for kids right here in Fort Worth ISD. So who are Avid students? Who are they primarily? Well, they are primarily, the demographics are up there on the screen. 79% of them select themselves as being a group, an ethnicity that has not traditionally gone on and had an opportunity to advance their education past high school or even finish. And 64% identify themselves as low SES, a socioeconomic group that doesn't have as much opportunity. But the thing that I want you to know, and I want you to remember those demographics as we go through the rest of the slides because it's an important context. Avid is making a difference for these children because on the slides, the blue is Avid and the gold is students from their same ethnicity who did not have the opportunity to be an Avid. And you'll see that the Avid students are closing that achievement gap because they're enrolling in advanced courses at this higher percentage. And the thing that I want you to see is that all ethnic groups, a higher proportion of the Avid graduates took at least one AP class compared to the students who didn't have Avid. They also complete college readiness at a higher percentage. Over 90% of the students from all of the ethnicities that are up there on the screen that are in Avid meet college readiness standards by the time that they graduate. And they go to college. The blue is Avid and the gold is non-Avid from the same group. And you can see that they are enrolling in college, and you have background data that shows that they're staying in college and finishing college at a higher percentage. And even in the groups between Avid, between four-year college and two-year college up there, the gap is smaller, right? The gap is smaller than it is for students who didn't have the opportunity to be in Avid. And is that true in Fort Worth? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, it is. And you'll see up there that in Fort Worth, our Avid students enroll in AP classes at a higher percentage and complete them at a higher percentage and then take the exam just at a slightly higher percentage. And in our middle school, our Avid students complete Algebra 1 with a C or better at a higher percentage, and and a higher percentage of the Avid students in middle school complete high school credit-bearing courses while they're still in middle school. So in Fort Worth, the Avid students are enrolling in these advanced classes at a higher percentage than their non-Avid peers, right? When it comes to the state assessment, they are performing at a higher level on, and the gap between the lowest score, which up here is writing an ELA, and the highest score, which is for social studies, is smaller for Avid students than it is for non-Avid students. In other words, there's a larger gap between their lower score and their higher score. Avid is performing more, they're performing more equitably across all of the disciplines. And in middle school, they're about the same in math, but on average, the Avid students are scoring about 16 points or more, better, higher. So it does make a difference, no matter what their demographic, no matter what their socioeconomic, no matter what their ethnicity. They are performing at a higher level, they are achieving at a higher level, and that gives them more opportunities for the future. On average, they scored about 61 percentage points higher on the SAT than their non-Avid peers, and they scored just a smidgen higher on the ACT. My point with all of this is that Avid is closing the achievement gap, is making differences for these children. And which schools in Fort Worth ISD have Avid? 13 of our 19 high schools have Avid. TCC Collegiate will add it in 2016, and Western Hills and WLI will add it in 2017. Of our middle schools, 13 of 29 have Avid already, and then McClung and Morningside both want to add in 2016. You did hear earlier tonight There's talk about Avid Elementary. That's a decision for down the road. The thing that I'm encouraged by all of the growth. I want to make sure that it's measured, and I want to make sure that the schools that implement do so with fidelity, because Avid's not a magic thing. It's not a silver bullet. If it's not done with fidelity to the model, it doesn't have the impact that you see, that you've seen that it can have, right? And so that's really important. But we are making progress. We are moving in the right direction in Fort Worth ISD Avid. In the last 3 years, we've grown in the number of sites that we have from 19 to 26, and we've also grown in enrollment at existing sites. And only about 200 of our new students are new sites. The rest is all growth at existing sites. Our projected enrollment for next year is over 4,000, and most 70% of that is growth at existing sites. So I mean, there's a lot of demand for Avid, and at the same time that we're increasing in numbers, we're also increasing in fidelity of implementation to the model, which is a big encouragement to me. And you'll see that we've increased the number of highly certified sites, and we're working, towards that fidelity across the board with our existing sites. But I want to thank you for your belief in Fort Worth ISD students and for your support of Avid. You all are big supporters, and that support is making a difference, and your belief is making a difference in the futures and the lives of these young people. And in your packet, you have some testimonials from Fort Worth ISD Avid grads who wanted to express the difference that Avid has made for them, just like you saw in the video. And so I hope that you'll, and I also gave you in your report, I gave you the schools by district. So the schools that you represent, you can easily look and see how those Avid sites are performing. So I hope that that's useful information to you as well. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to do my best to answer them at this time. So.
Dr. Sutherland?
I'm anxious to get this program into a couple, at least, elementary schools. I have my eye on one in particular. I think that's obvious. I don't know about the others. I know that it costs the district money. If it seems to me that I haven't looked at the Title I money available in those schools, but I know that it's significant. So what I'm wondering is how much it would cost. I'm thinking, Dr. Scribner, that it would be reasonable to ask the district to increase the Avid budget enough to pay for the district part of the program if the school itself would provide the local part. I don't know how much there is. I have the numbers in front of me, but I can't put them together. So that's my question.
We do have, all schools that decide to implement Avid do have a financial commitment that they undertake as well. They pay for professional development costs, and they pay for, we have a small supply budget, but above and beyond that, they pay for. And we ask them to provide a classroom where the teacher doesn't have to float, because there are a whole lot of things associated with tutorials that make that really complicated. And so we ask for those kind of commitments. As far as how much it would cost to implement Avid Elementary, it is a separate contract. The more sites you get, the more of a break you get. But again, if you do too much too soon, I think you compromise on the developing a good deep root system.
I'm looking at these numbers. Just see if you can reflect them to me. Elementary Avid leadership training is $6,300, and I think that includes several teachers, right?
Yes, because Avid Elementary is all of the teachers at a grade level are trained, and so whereas at the secondary level you have site coordinators who oversee a campus program, at the elementary level the principal oversees that campus's Avid program, and then if you implement in a grade level, all of those teachers are trained. And so it's 5, they require 5 the first year, and training is about $735 a person. And then if you added another grade level the next year, it would be all of those teachers, because all of the strategies are implemented by the classroom teacher within the classroom. You really go school-wide from the beginning with Avid Elementary, which is a strength.
Well, Dr. Scribner, I'm hoping that it would be possible to put together a study group of interested individuals without forcing anybody, to see if they can come up with something that you and the rest of us think is advisable. Thank you very much for your time, and it's a nice presentation.
Thanks.
Ms. Jackson?
Thank you, President Ramos. First, I want to say it's a delight to work with you. I don't often use that word, but you're amazing, and your energy is amazing. That being said, how much more staff do we need to help downtown? Because I don't know how much you're juggling, but I think you have quite a few schools, and you've been very gracious and added quite a few on, Forest Oak and Meadowbrook, which I say thank you for. But is there a need for infrastructure downtown?
There is, if you want to get much bigger. The recommended course load for district directors is 10 sites. The maximum that Avid Center recommends is 15. I've got 26 this year, and we'll have 29 next year. And I do worry that I don't have the ability to support them adequately, because there are so many of them, although I'm doing, and I will continue to give them everything that I've got, because our kids are worth that. But yes, if you're going to go into Avid Elementary, there is going to have to be additional district support, because that's a separate training. And my background is secondary. And ideally, I think you need somebody with an elementary background and a commitment to Avid to really understand that and do the very best that they can for those sites. So yeah, that would be something to factor in.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for your presentation, and thank you for the individual per district
Oh, yeah,
reports.
there's a lot more there than a lot of you will look at, but then I know some of you are data gurus and you really like it. And so it's there for you if you want it, but, I just wanted to give you a wealth of information for you to do with as you saw fit, right? Make paper airplanes.
I want to apologize ahead of time. My screen went blank, but I'm trying to remember the order. Oh, Mrs. Moss. Thank you.
Really? Okay, thanks for the presentation. And I hope that we can continue to add the schools in secondary, where we need the schools. And I know that's a lot of money, and I know if we continue to add administrators, Dr. Scribner will give you the resources you need. I have a question about the budget, and I heard the young lady talk about trips. And I guess they thought that they didn't have money in their budget for trips. So who would be the one to inform the teachers?
The coordinators get their Avid budget in the fall, and we refer to it repeatedly through the year. So the communication from downtown to the coordinators is happening, okay? Maybe the communication to the students is not, I don't know why she thought she didn't have funds. We fund 2 trips, college visits per grade level per year for Avid students. We do not fund a trip for seniors, because we really ask them to lock in their college choices by the time that they're juniors. In the spring of their junior year, they're doing applications and they're moving, right? So we
Okay.
don't pay for a senior trip, but we pay for each grade level two per
Okay.
year.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in middle school, they have the option of taking 2 trips.
They do, and in middle school, we give them a little bit of latitude. It can be one college visit and one like cultural or educational, like to one of the museums, or that some of them go to Dallas to the 6th Street, some of them go to Perot, different places like that.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Judy Needham?
Thank you, President Ramos. It's a great report, and I hope every year that you just, that you could at least send us the statistics or the numbers that you have.
I would love to do that.
Well, I imagine that it can be done by asking the president or Dr. Scribner. I had 2 questions. The schools, the secondary schools that don't have Avid, do you think the principals are aware of of how beneficial Avid is?
I do make that information available, but I know principals have a lot, on their plates.
Maybe I should
And,
ask the
and there are
people.
some, honestly, some of our schools, where they have an infrastructure on the campus that does a whole lot of the things that Avid already does. They have a really strong infrastructure for that. Most of all of our traditional, after Western Hills comes on, all of our traditional schools will have it, and both of our collegiate. But Tabs has a college and career person there all the time, so.
What about middle schools?
Middle schools, the ones that don't have it, honestly, we used to have more that had it, but the 5x5 schedule made it very difficult for all electives, not just Avid. And so that was the thing that adversely impacted Avid middle schools. And now they have a latitude to go to 6x6 or traditional days, and more of them are coming back on board with Avid. It was honestly, for the most part, a scheduling thing for a lot of them.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Not solely, but largely.
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm really glad to see how you're tracking how they're doing in college. How many years have you done that?
This job, this is my,
No, you're tracking the students graduate and go to college, and you're tracking the grades they're making. How many years have you tracked their college grades? 1 year?
well, we have, actually, Avid Center does that for us. And they've been working with the National Clearinghouse for the last few years. And so the last years that we have good data for are 2000, it's in your packet, 2010, 2011, and 2012, because they're just a year behind. And there was a reporting glitch in 13. So they've tracked it for a long time, but they didn't have data-driven until they developed the partnership. And so we have it going from 2010 forward.
So going forward,
Yeah, it will
know
always have it. We'll always
how
have it.
many stay in college and how many drop out?
We'll have enrollment and persistence data. And I gave you 2 years of it there, but I have more, I have
I
a
saw
couple
it.
of more years.
I looked. That's
Yeah.
great. I look forward to it in the future.
Yeah, I'll give it to you every year.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Well, thank you.
Dr. Avila?
Yeah, I just had a question about how the students come to participate in the program. Are they self-selecting? Are there counselors that are recruiting? Are there principals recruiting?
The Avid model says that they self-select. There is a student profile, first generation college, historically underserved on a four-year campus, 2.0 to 3.5, the academic middle of their campus. So there's a little bit of latitude there, the academic middle of their campus. And if they're not in the academic middle, if they're a little bit on the high side, you've got to have some compelling reason why they need Avid. Because if they're academically successful without it, we don't necessarily, and GT kids aren't a good fit for Avid. They're just not. And there is a lot of individual determination. So students, we're not a magic bullet for motivation. Although we can, we can socialize intelligence and we can socialize achievement, and we do that. We do that. But yeah, they have to apply. They have to be interviewed. It shouldn't be. Now, on some of our campuses, honestly, they say this child needs Avid and they put them in, but we strongly discourage that. And we work with counselors and other people to educate and say this is not, because they have to choose. They have to choose.
Okay.
And so we're working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I don't necessarily have a question. I've just got a handful of statements. One, giving credit recognition to Mr. Joe Greenslade and you and your team for the presentation that was done at the national conference in California this past December. Represented us, and particularly at Pascal High School. It was a great presentation and well attended. Also, the thanks to the Avid coordinators and teachers and you for inviting me to go to the showcase at Haltom High School this past year. Yeah, hello.
They're here.
So I got to witness what it is that I've heard, that there's schools with Avid, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then there's Avid schools.
Yes.
And what I witnessed was amazing.
An Avid
It's-
school.
It's an Avid school where the attitude is embracing and utilizing the techniques that Avid teachers use. And they asked us to sit in classrooms, and I got to watch teachers implement these techniques. And everything that my oldest son, who's a senior, who's an Avid student, and the differences between he and my sophomore, who is not an Avid student, is very, very obvious in our home. So no doubt am I grateful that this board and the previous board kept Avid in what I understand was a trying time
Yeah,
handful of years ago. And one
2011.
of the reasons that my wife and I were excited about moving to Fort Worth ISD to get our son when he was a freshman into Avid program. Thank you for all
Thank
the work
you.
that you're doing.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you.